Alright, so this is just a little game that we're going to play. And this is about playing University Professor. They like to do things their way. Every fantasy is a treasure. And of course, I can't invest of the $1 trillion that they spent for the National Ignition Facility or make you slaves or counterfeit $9 trillion a year or something to play games with. But I'm going to do the best I can with what I got, because, you know, that's what I got. So we're just gonna do their experiments. That's what we're gonna do. We're gonna do their experiments. So their first experiment, you know, at the National Ignition Facility, is to take some fuel, and then we put the fuel in the can. Well, let's just back this critter out of there for the moment. So we got fuel in the can now. Okay. So that's, you know, what they do, and then I got a laser here too. So here we go. And I put the little laser on. Oh shoot, it doesn't have enough power to ignite the fuel on fire. But you see, they have 192 lasers all pointed at the same little bitty spot, and they can create 180 million degrees. Of course, they can't do what they want to do, which is, you know, prove fusion actually exists. They can't do that. They've been at it for 4 years, and they've proven themselves to be liars. But hey, everybody has to have a fantasy, so you gotta let them do it. I mean, it's just $1 trillion. You can't argue with that. But that's okay. Because what we can do instead is we'll just use their next machine. Their next machine lets us spin the fuel. We're gonna spin the fuel, and then we can ignite it on fire, or we'll ignite it on fire, and then we can spin the fuel, and then we can burn atoms. But before we burn atoms, we have to, you know, stoke the fire. So let's see. I have already here some stuff to you know, once the fire gets going. But we have to, you know, start the fire in the little furnace before we can do that. So we're going to go ahead and let's put the fuel in there. We want to burn this here concrete block. Let's got to throw that in there. And then we got to burn this glass. It didn't burn the first time, but you know, that was just a mistake. Another $1 trillion or two, and it'll burn. I'm sure it'll burn. Not a problem. We gotta, you know, burn the atoms in steel too. You know, everything is fuel. So we'll just do that. Okay, now we're practically ready. We got, you know, our fuel source in the can, in our little beef furnace. So it'll be great. What could go wrong? Well, let's see. Oh yes, I have to light it on fire. Here we go. Let's see. Oh yeah, I need some matches. That's what we gotta do. Oh, better move that little can of gas. I wouldn't want to, you know, burn myself. Let's go. All right now. Seeing as I'm playing the redneck, I thought a cane pole really nice for this particular purpose. You know, cane poles and duct tape, that's just perfect stuff. I don't have $1 trillion to spend on this stuff. And of course, that's just the one machine. The trillions of dollars that are spent, you know, all around the world and at the university. You know, I can't counterfeit $9 trillion. They won't let me. I don't know why not. I'm just as good as they are, aren't I? Slaves can only do so much. That's just how it is. So let's see if I can manage to ignite this without, you know, put myself on fire. I'm going to step behind the camera because, well, I'd like to be a little bit farther away. All right, here we go. Let's see if we can make it work. Because, you know, the fire, we start the fire in the furnace, and then we spin the furnace so that everything is, you know, as fast as it can go. Up. Well, we won't go that fast. after all. It's not really my fantasy. But that's a pretty good fire, isn't it? Let's try it now. Oh, it's a burning. So let's go ahead. Ah. Pretty cute. But that problem with starting fires is you can't put them out. Have you ever noticed that? You can't put them out, especially when you get a lot of fuel. And of course, oh, I forgot to put in the fuel for the can here. We have to put some sand in there. Because after all, that's just like atoms, you know. Sand and atoms and stuff like that, that's just okay. We're trying to burn atoms, so we should let them, you know, see what we're doing. Let's see. Here's some sand. Well, I was going to break up the other stuff, but I just didn't want to. So here's some sand. And of course they're 10,000 times bigger than atoms. But that's okay. Now, we've started the little fire, but we have to, you know, to burn atoms because that's what, you know, university professors do. Yeah, you have to burn atoms. So it didn't work the first time, so now we're going to spin the fire and we're going to make it turbulent so that won't happen. Now I realize that's just not as exciting as atoms on fire. But you have to admit, it's still a fire and it's still pretty hard to control because, you know, I can't put it out. Well, you know, I could put it out by throwing some stuff on it, but water, you know, is made out of atoms. And atoms, well, if you're burning atoms, well, what could you possibly put on that isn't made out of atoms? That's the question. And the answer, of course, is you can't. There isn't anything that we can put on the fire that's burning atoms that would put it out. There isn't anything that we could put on the fire that's burning atoms that would put it out. And atoms, like an atomic bomb, have an enormous amount of energy. And they burn at 10 million degrees, just like the sun, which burns your skin from 91 million miles away in the summertime. Of course, a fire in atoms, which is, you know, 10 million degrees, would be up a mile high by now, and it'd be having an updraft of about 1,000 miles per hour. And, well, that would just, you know, suck everything in. So there's no way we could approach it just to even try. I know what you think, that we could throw an atomic bomb into it. That'd do it. But, alas, it wouldn't. Atoms on fire, like the sun, aren't likely to go out. I would think that would be, you know, pretty certain. Not going to go out. Yep. Now our next experiment, after this calms down a little bit, see that swirl on top? Now that's kind of like a tornado. And the sun has a lot of tornadoes on it. And that tornado sucks in air from the backside. Of course, tornadoes on the sun have a lot more power. But we have to, work with what we got. I'm not a university professor, so I can't make a 10 million degree fire out of burning atoms. I just have to make a fire out of what I can. And of course, what we can do is realize that the fact of the matter is, when we start a fire, the fire does whatever it wants to until the fuel is gone. On an Earth that is literally made out of atoms, the fuel won't go away. It can't be used up until a sun goes supernova and explodes. That's how the fire ends, in most cases. So, our great university professors are trying to create a sun here. That's what they say. They're going to create a sun here on Earth. The sun is burning atoms. Not molecules like we do here on Earth, leaving the atoms alone. A sun burns atoms, or more correctly, the bonds that hold atoms together. So, as we go down the road with all these machines that are intended to create an atom fire, an atom that is burning, not exploding like they'll tell you as a new atom bomb, not just heat like they'll tell you in other things, but on fire, which means it is consuming itself and consuming what is around it. We are going to face the reality it cannot be put out. Now, the university says not to worry, there's not enough gravity here. That's what they say. There's not enough gravity here. So the atom fires will just put themselves out. Or the atom on fire will just lift itself off the face of the Earth because it's too hot and fly off into space through the atmosphere. It's made out of atoms. Can't possibly hit another atom and ignite it on fire, too. Oh no, that surely couldn't happen. They surely couldn't be wrong. I mean, after all, they are gambling with every life and every future life on the planet. What could go wrong? Especially since there are no second chances. It's ignition, which means the fire either puts itself out according to university theory, or the fire burns our world. Our world. Our world. Just like a sun. Because it can't be put out. Everything is fuel. Alright, well, I want to ask you just once. Is it really worth betting an entire world on letting them burn atoms? Is it? Chickens, when they're born, can make a little noise. I've never heard in 40 years people making a little noise. There's a few that do, but with humanity itself on the line, and every single thing you love or respect, expect or want or desire or anything like that. All of it being gambled. I think that there'd be a little more noise. Wouldn't you? Wouldn't you think so? I mean, you know, it's your world. Literally your world. Oh, we had a solar flare. That was a little pocket, a dense pocket of fuel being released, being consumed, which is what a solar flare is. Now, I didn't get to show you the German machine. They intend to make that little swirl of fire that we had in the first one and make it turbulent. That's what their machine does. It takes that circle of fire and it makes it turbulent. Well, it's not quite an actual fire, it's a plasma running at several million degrees. Now, I was going to pump some air into it to make it turbulent in the can, which is a little bit dangerous, so I'm not going to bother to redirect it. But, you know, like a scientist do, I forgot to allow for the wind headed in this direction. Oh well, those mistakes will happen. Gee, I wonder if something could go wrong when they actually do ignite atoms on fire. What do you think? Do you think something could go wrong? I wonder if maybe a theory could be wrong. You know, like that two hydrogen atoms will combine into a helium atom. And that's all the heat that comes from the sun. Of course, there is no helium. Only the tiniest little bit. It's one of the scarcest elements ever created. But, you know, that's just not reality doesn't work with fantasy, you know, university fantasies. So we just have to allow them that. I mean, after all, you know, if the sun was making helium out of every two hydrogen atoms, well, the whole universe would be full of helium. But then, like I said, fantasies don't work when you put reality in the way. And if you don't have a fantasy to spend trillions of dollars on, you know, and counterfeit money for and things like that, well, nobody gets to be king. Nobody gets to be the slave. Nobody gets to be, you know, whatever they want to be until reality takes it away. Unfortunately for us, our reality is they're going to take away our world if we don't stop them before they ignite atoms on fire. That's the deal. Either you stop them before they ignite an atom, which could be any day. There are plenty of machines to do it. They claim enormous heat sources. They claim, you know, tremendous electrical consumption. It's just, you know, they have lots of stuff. 150 million degrees of plasma, 180 million degrees of laser beams, you know, making it turbulent, doing everything they can to make a fire we can't put out. Everything they can to make a fire we can't put out. I know you want to go and hide, but that won't help you. This is, of course, our sun at 91 million miles away or a little more. When we put up the screen, it calms down a little bit. You can see the flares. Well, it's more like the aurora around the sun. Well, let's just look back there. The camera has a hard time focusing on that. the end result is the flames are 1,000,000 miles long, and that doesn't include the aurora around the sun. What you see there is kind of a cross-shaped affair with little spikes around it. Trying to bring that here. Maybe you should be concerned. Maybe you should actually spend $1 or $2. Spend an effort or two. You know, speak a word or two. Protest a little. Do something for your world. It's your world. You get to think about everything beautiful that is on this planet. And I know this isn't a great landscape to be looking at to say how beautiful the world is. But we only got one, and there ain't no place to go. There ain't no place else to go. So I'm going to, let's see. I'm going to read you a little bit from my website, justtalking5.info. Just Talking 4 has a better description of things that go wrong with or about the sun and fusion and things like that. If you want to do that, you can read that. So anyway, the greatest fraud of our world, and you'll see some pictures in the background. In the entire history of man on Earth is that atomic fire on the sun, which does mean the burning of atoms, can be called fusion. It is not. Which the universities say is nothing more than combining 2 hydrogen atoms into a helium atom. That's their theory. And it doesn't work. They already proved it wrong. Or more simply put, the universities say burning hydrogen atoms, which is chaos by any description of order, not only builds a helium atom, but heats our world with the leftovers. To burn atoms means to destroy the bond that holds an atom together. It is that simple. Reality, however, says once atoms are on fire, then everything built of atoms becomes fuel for the fire. How does that not make sense? If you threw gasoline in the fire and you had a whole lot more gasoline, would that not be fuel for the fire? Same thing. Is that now not how forest fires arise? Wherever, whatever can be burnt will be burnt. If atoms are burning, everything that is an atom base will burn. Because the fire reaches out, nothing is closer to another atom on fire than an atom that is not on fire, so it will burn too. It can grow like fires do. Even so, if the atom burns with 10 million degrees of heat as is on the sun, how could that not be enough to reach or ignite another atom, and another, and so on? Even the atmosphere is filled with atoms. Why can it not burn in the atmosphere? Water is built of atoms. We are built of atoms. Everything is fuel. But the universities say their whole theory is that burning atoms will just extinguish themselves. The fire will just put itself out. That's what they say. Truth says, however, that not until the fuel source runs out, which can occur only by making our planet another sun. How is that not true? Let them answer the question. Because until the atoms run out, there is fuel to burn. The university says there's not enough gravity on Earth to sustain the fire. So the burning of atoms will simply escape by flying off into space. Knowledge, however, refutes that with a variety of laws that all contradict their theories. There's not one law of physics law. There's not one that agrees with their theories. Not one. And with evidence, even a 2-year-old can see the theory will fail. Such as a solar flare, the burning of extra fuel has been measured at lengths reaching 12 million miles long past the known aurora, the known flames of the sun. reaching 12 times farther because there is more fuel to burn. Just like throwing a little more gasoline on the fire means that there will be a flare. Same as on the sun. Put more fuel in the fire and you get a flare. It's that simple. If the sun has such intense gravity as these scientists predict, in a way that they predict, that visible burning atom, which is a solar flare, which is reaching 12 million miles beyond the flames, could not exist. The gravity would pull it back in, like the flames. The flames are supposed to be 1 million miles long. That means there's energy pushing out, not pulling in. It is surely true no great gravitational pull stops the energy from being released. A solar flare travels on its own. The visible effects of it, so that we can see it, travels 12 times farther than the end of the flame. Is that not how the Earth is heated at 91 million miles away? The energy escapes the sun. It doesn't get pulled back in. It escapes. And if you look at a solar flare, it just, flows around out there with little in mind other than doing whatever it wants. Or it is not the gravity that keeps the sun burning. It is the fuel, the atoms. And that makes the sun and the earth essentially, or at least potentially, equal. The sun is not so much different. Knowledge states, not underneath the flames, knowledge states that the sun has fire tornadoes as well. We call them that because the swirl and the look like tornadoes here, which means we can expect they are similar in physical properties which govern that effect. It is a physical form. A tornado here sucks material up off the surface and into the atmosphere. That's what the tornado is doing. It's reaching down through the flames, down to the surface of the mass to get more fuel, to break it up, because it's a little bit harder down there in that spot. Which means the physical effect of that tornado on the sun is then greater than the gravity it encounters on the sun. If gravity was so terribly powerful as they expect it to be, then a tornado could not exist because it would not have enough power to pull itself into a swirl, even in the flame. And solar gravity is different than planetary gravity, and we're not going to discuss that here. But since it is made from fire, the tornado is, we know that the fire has greater power than the gravity. To understand the machines of men are built to ignite and then burn atoms just once. They can't put it out, and it will melt the machines, and well, actually it'll burn the machines, instantaneously. But nonetheless, they build machines and have built machines and are using machines for the purpose to ignite atoms on fire. They want to burn atoms. They can't put it out. They state we will create a star, which is the burning of atoms from a fuel mass. By measuring the sun, the temperature of the flames is roughly 10 million degrees hot. By burning that fire here on Earth, as is the ignition point of a forest fire, with endless mass to burn, the fire of a burning atom can only grow without the slightest chance to stop it. Can you stop a major forest fire? No, you can't. It's too much fuel. Atoms are everywhere. The consequence is these decisions are not only insane, they go beyond insanity to achieve the ultimate sacrifice to arrogance that could exist. The greatest abomination ever achieved, which is gambling life or death for our world on their theory, which is burning atoms will simply put themselves out. Really? Fire known to go out in your world? Does it just put itself out? with an endless amount of fuel? Does it? No. And that has absolutely no chance of being proven true. The atoms will not put themselves out. We know fire consumes until the fuel is gone, or until you can change something that makes the fire happen. But once atoms are on fire, 10 million degrees hot, with an extreme amount of suction, which would be a major updraft of 1,000 miles per hour or more, probably much more, you're not going to be able to get there to put it out. An atomic bomb is not going to put it out. Nothing is going to put it out, especially when it hits the oceans. The oceans will suck up into it, and the water is made of atoms. It's not going to put a fire out. The water is fuel. Once ignition occurs of these atoms burning, our world is dead. Men try to ignite atoms on fire every single day. They have too much pride to stop. They want the power all those trillions of dollars that have been spent gave them. They're not going to say, we were wrong, because then they'd have to give up their power and their pride and their prejudice of us and everything that is all this fantasy has given them. They're not going to do it. We have to stop them. It only takes one ignition. Just once, atoms burning on Earth, and life is either over, because the planet will become a sun, just like the sun. We know that fire exists. We know it exists. Or, like the university says, a burning atom will just put itself out, even though it's surrounded by fuel. Limitless fuel. Just like the sun. You don't get two chances. Once ignition occurs, we either die, or if the university is correct, then we get a big heat source. We do. But that's the gamble. Life or death for our world on one ignition. There's no going back. There's no doing it over. Once. And you're done. When the ignition point of an atom is reached, and the atom is on fire, the resultant flame, as you see on the sun, will become a jet, in effect, and propel the fire itself far outside the furnace. It won't stay contained, and it won't be controlled. Just something you should think about.